Hey everybody, what is going on? It is undercover retired detective Matt Pitcher, and with me, as always, is Willy, former firefighter, now therapist slash actor. And I need to start adding actor to that too. I'm now retired, but I am an actor now, not a
True.
therapist.
Yep. I've met you on a commercial. Yeah,
That's right. What?
we do
I
this
don't
stuff.
remember that. I don't know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
it'll come out someday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yep. Yep.
How was your
Good to
week? Everything
see you.
good?
It's been good. It was busy. Just, sometimes you just get into those modes where it's just go, 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 go. And I feel like I've been stuck in that mode. So I'm actually trying to pull back some in some ways. But how's your week? How you doing?
It was good. It was insane. Like I had since I've gotten into acting and started going down this road, this was by far the busiest week I've ever had, which is a good thing. Not complaining. Love
Awesome.
it. Was on
Yeah.
a TV show for this week as background
Nice.
on it, but it was very cool.
Hmm.
And I was up close background, so I got to be right next to everybody, so it was pretty cool.
Cool.
Um,
Yeah, some featured stuff. That's good.
exactly. I had seven different scripts I got this week.
All
Um,
right.
and I've gotten
Yeah.
five of them done. I've got two left that I'm working on. So,
Hmm.
and little, I'm going to plug myself, I think, here a little bit.
Yeah. Go
Going to
for it.
be a new show coming out on YouTube. It's kind of already out, but it's getting redone. Behind the Badge, and it's basically body cam footage, but we are going to do a little bit differently and treat it like a football play. So I'm going to be on there as the host, and I'm going to narrate. This is what's
Cool.
happening. This is why they're doing what they're doing. It's a pretty cool concept. It's very, very pro law enforcement, which obviously is important to me, but also kind of,
Yeah.
it shows how dangerous the job can be for one thing, and then
Hmm.
why we do what we do. Um, so
Yeah.
it's pretty
Super
cool.
cool.
We'll,
Yeah.
we'll have
Look
to get a
forward to
firefighter version of that too, so that we can show that. I think that would actually be
Yep.
kind of cool.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be cool. Yeah, I like to
except for
narrate too. Hmm.
except for when you guys get to sleep on the job, but
Yeah, I'll
that's
narrate
different.
that part. Definitely. And now we're going taking a nap.
Yeah.
Yeah, we used to watch golf. We would watch golf to to not take a nap, but really just
Oh,
take a nap, because you
yeah,
fell asleep because
exactly.
you're watching golf,
Yeah,
You weren't allowed to sleep back then. So I don't know. I
totally.
hear that they're allowed to sleep now. They can take naps and stuff, which is cool.
Yeah,
And
I'd say that. I mean, like if you don't have something to do, I think that's important. Like
yeah,
obviously, sleep is very, very important, and to keep
yeah,
yourself mentally fresh, ready to go.
hmm
Um, I
yeah.
can see that all day long.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good to see you it's changing. There are some people that I want to bring on someday, or at least have some of their information pass through here. And so I'll put a little plug for. There's a I forget the name of the company, but I'll put this in the link. In the next couple of weeks, we'll get some sleep information out because there are people doing some pretty cool stuff around sleep and sleep recovery from working shifts and how to prepare for it. And it seems to be met pretty well by responders. So
I've
anyway,
seen
I'll
that a
get
little
more
bit
info.
actually lately about like there's been, which is great. I am because where I'm
Yeah,
coming from, and the trouble I have with sleeping. Granted, there's a lot more to it, but yeah, I can tell you firsthand how incredibly important sleep is and
yeah,
what it'll do to you if you don't get it.
yeah.
Um,
Go crazy. Hmm.
exactly.
Yep,
um,
yep. Hmm.
so for tonight, since it is Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day to all the mother figures out there,
Yeah,
not
happy
just the
Mother's Day.
biological moms, but
Hmm.
everybody that's kind of been there as a mom for people. We'll get into that then.
Hmm.
But just want to say very, very happy Mother's Day. And I want to kind of do a special episode around that premise. And kind of, we talk all the time about the trauma that we go through, right? Between law enforcement, firefighters, first responders in general.
Hmm.
And we don't talk about the spouse at home. And a lot of times, especially in law enforcement, it is the mother at home,
Hmm.
just the way it works,
A
but
lot
not
of
always.
times. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Um, and I'm going to speak from personal experience what both my mom and my wife, like what I put them through and what my job, the trauma that it actually caused them, and
Yeah.
how much of it we don't even think about. But the burden that we place on our families is just pretty unreal, and definitely traumatic in so many ways. And then
Mm.
hopefully you can go into a little bit. I want to go more into, there are so many different people that are moms to people that aren't
Mhm.
biological moms, and
Yeah.
what an incredibly important role that plays
Hmm.
into into a well-being of a kid growing up and even a young adult into adult.
Yeah.
Um, and then I'm gonna end it tonight with I got a question. We're gonna go a little bit out of order this time. Like it's a legitimate question. I told you last week about I need to find a therapist. Need to do a check in, and I
Hmm.
had one in mind. I was so excited about. They don't practice in Florida, so I have some
Ah.
questions, but I'm going to save it to the end because I'm thinking there may be other people that kind of have the same question that don't understand it well either.
Hmm.
So you might be able to not only help me, but help them to understand
Yeah.
how to go about it in a way. So we'll end with that
Finding
tonight.
a therapist. Yeah. Let's do
Exactly.
it.
All
Hmm.
right. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to get
Hmm.
into it and give some personal experiences about with my family, some of the stuff they've had to deal with that I've never given a second thought to.
Hmm.
And the first one, we even joke about it. And tell me how bizarre it is to joke about something like this. We, I was set to get engaged on December 31st, right? I had it planned out to the T. It was going to be awesome. I had gotten permission. I was going to be off work about 9:30, just a little bit before my shift ended, so I can make it. And right as it turned the new year, January 1st, I had her friends throw this party, right? So she thought she was going to this New Year's Eve party. They threw this party just because I was getting engaged to her that night. And she was going to come out the front door at midnight to shoot off fireworks. And I was going to be on a knee proposing.
Oh,
Right? Is that
wow.
not like the coolest idea
Yeah.
ever? Right? Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It would have been. Let me tell you, really, really would
It
have
would have been.
been.
Uh-oh.
So I was on patrol at the time, doing my shift work, and 9 o'clock. Of course, you know how it is. Everything goes wrong, and it is New Year's Eve. That's a worry.
Yeah.
But I had everything set up that I was going to be able to leave. There's only one thing that could mess me up, and that is officer involved shooting.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh no, you
of
got
course, nine
one.
o'clock. Officer starts yelling out, "Shots fired! Shots fired!" I'm stuck in an apartment complex. Um, I go in, end up hearing rounds, hearing dirt. So, and it was coming from like it's one of those. I don't want to call them high rise, but it was like 4 or 5 stories apartment type
Mhm.
complex, and it was set up where it was almost did like a diamond, and we were kind of almost right in the middle.
Oh,
As long as you can get pinned down and be in a real bad situation.
yeah.
Real fast, I was really irritated with the officer that night, but anyway, and so that happened. Got stuck there for a while, cleared it out, had to get everything going our way. Did not get shot. No officer got hit. We didn't return fire, anything like that. Couldn't figure out where it was going through except for certain flashes. Um, Finished that and then turn around. There's another officer shooting at a skating rink and a large crowd fight. Ended up having a fight with several people, get into all that. And by the time I cleared, like I think the next time I looked at my watch, it was after midnight. Um,
Oof.
and her
Yeah.
friends, like, it doesn't seem like a big deal until her friends know I'm supposed to be there. Everything's now gone wrong. Obviously, what their
Plan.
thoughts are. Yeah, what's
Yeah.
going on? Why haven't we heard from them? Why can't? Um, And
Mhm.
then instinctively, when I finally got to talk to her, I said, I spilled the beans. But of course, with that, I say, hey, listen, we took shots tonight. Um, and things didn't work out.
Mm.
And looking back at it, as harmless as that all sounds, I mean, think about what you're telling your significant other. Like, hey, listen, we're getting shot at tonight,
Yeah.
so I'm not going to be able to propose. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is just the way things work.
Sorry.
This is just normal,
Hmm.
right?
Welcome to the family. Okay.
Yeah,
You can be let
exactly.
down some. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then probably wasn't even long after this. I may have been living at her apartment before I was married.
Hmm.
The sinful behaviors that is. But
Hmm. Hmm.
I came home and I'd get off at. I had switched shifts at this time, so I'd get off at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And I had gotten in a bad fight one night, and the fight also occurred on broken glass. So we both got cut up pretty good. One of my exposure incidents, which those are always
Hmm.
fun, let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so they ended up having to go to the hospital. Nothing major, but they had to bandage me up pretty good. And I come home and go to bed next to her. And of course, she's already asleep and all that. And she just wakes up at one point, and there she is. My whole arm and stuff is bandaged up. I think I had some other bandages on and stuff like that. And like the next morning, she's like, what, what happened? What did, and it's just, you don't think about it. And again, you're putting in her head that every time you leave that house, we say it every time, our goal is to come home. You don't know if you're coming home. But the pressure that we put on our family, and the fact that we're showing them that this is a reality, like, it's not
they
just
see
something we say.
of it.
Yeah. And then right before we were getting married, it was like 2 days before we were to get married. And we did get married on them, but I had a very, very bad fight. Guy supposedly had a gun, and he put his hands in his waistband and could not break free. It was one of those ones where you're very, very close to shooting him. And I ended up, I did not shoot him. I did use what would be considered lethal force to end the situation. And it was bad. And that happened. Obviously, that's an extremely stressful situation across the board. And do that, and then certain political groups get involved, because unfortunately, if you do use lethal force, that isn't, believe it or not, this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but even if you don't kill the person, but you do a lot of damage to a person, which saved his life, the appearance can look bad.
Yeah, could be.
And so political groups got involved. Yeah, exactly. And we're calling for my termination, threatening lawsuits, and all this. And this is literally right as we're getting married. Like, we left on our honeymoon, and I'm like, hopefully I'm coming back to a job.
Right? Nice honeymoon.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll be present.
Yeah, my mind's not going to be anywhere else, I promise. And now, luckily, we get back and actually received a commendation from the SWAT team, from their leader, who was known all around the nation as one of the best SWAT captains. And he said my use of force was not only justified, it was exemplary, and was intact. So that was very, very nice and safe. Thanks. Exactly. But it wasn't until years later that you think of these things. And then when I go undercover and I go into that world, I still remember with the first case, it was the first time. Usually in undercover work, you have your close cover. What that means, anytime we do a deal, anything we do undercover, we have people that are really close to us that when things go wrong, help, and the cavalry is there and comes in to help us save the day. When I did the long-term deep cover, you can't have that. It doesn't work that way. And I still remember explaining to my wife that there's not going to be any close cover, that basically people's job at that point is body recovery. That it's not, you're not going to get there to save me. It's not Hollywood. I'm not going to get tied up, and it's not going to get strung along for a while. If I mess up, it's instantaneous.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
Hey, so how's your day? Well, I mean, I might die at any point. So,
and and that's the worst part, is she's getting this information. This is towards the beginning, and then I'm saying, I'll see you in a year or so or more, and I don't know when I'm going to talk to you again. I mean, that's
basically saying goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. And we had that conversation twice. When I finished the first case, for that 1 month I came home, that was one of the, there was a bit of a disconnect, right? And I mean, rightfully so. Like, in a sense, she had to prepare her mind that she was never going to see me again. It was easier for me in a sense because my mind was occupied 100%.
You had a job to do.
Exactly.
You could
all
just
the
do
time.
That.
Like, I could not turn that off. She's at home dealing with a kid, not knowing if I'm ever coming home, not knowing where I'm at, what I'm doing. I cannot fathom the amount of stress that was on her. To be perfectly there's I love the Broadway play Hamilton, right? My favorite line in that movie: dying is easy, it's living that is hard. And that's I mean, you go undercover like that, in a sense, it is what it is. I've got one focus and that's it, where she's got to figure out to keep making life happen and keep moving on
every day. Hopefully direct deposits come through.
Exactly right. Yeah, with that big police officer paycheck.
Yeah, big zeros, tons of zeros, just a bunch of. You can't even count them
Yeah,
all.
it'd be nice to have something else other than a zero somewhere.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it's a plus. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second case, same situation. Like, I know it really got her in the second case when I had to get arrested. The day that arresting, I couldn't talk to her. Like, thank goodness for my best friend in the case, or best friend in life,
Mm-hmm.
was having communication with her to try to help ease some of it.
Oh,
But
nice.
that was really hard. The fact that I was supposed to come home that night to see her, which is totally on me, and such a stupid thought process of mine that would actually happen. Because then obviously I never came home.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then on top of all that, then my mom actually got cancer during that case, and we didn't tell my mom basically anything about it. Like, it just didn't seem somebody that wanna. Oh, Brad. Yeah, actually, I think I remember seeing you that day, Brad. Yeah, what a great day. He's talking about the day I was arrested. I was arrested during a very large protest. Like, I was part of this. The people I was with, my best friends, I had to be arrested to vouch.
Yeah, you gotta go with the flow. Yeah,
exactly.
makes sense. Because then your mom has cancer, and you can't even be there for her with her. Like,
and I talked to my handler and loved my handler, so that wasn't an issue. Like, if he could have got me there safely, I would have been there. But again, it has to be safe for everybody, right? And you got to look at it, and you've got to be rational about it. Like, okay, if I go there and it's not safe, I'm not only getting myself hurt, then they're not going to know who my mom is. Like, there's a whole scenario.
Yeah, adds to it.
Thing. Yeah. Not to mention that it was just not a case I was willing to fail at. So that all fell on my wife. So not only is my wife a single mom, she's now taking care of my mom and no idea what's going on with me. So, I mean, those are just a few of the examples, and then add on to it the number of Christmases, the number of Thanksgivings. I have a reputation that I'm never around on Thanksgiving until I retire.
Oh yeah, totally. You never get the holidays.
No.
Yeah,
something
they're
would
all
happen.
messed up.
Like when I came down to Florida, I worked homicide, so I have a dead body every Thanksgiving without fail.
Of course, right before you're gonna eat or something.
Yeah,
there we go. Yep, that makes sense. Well, I'm wondering too. Like, there's two parallels. There's your loved one, and there's you, and you're both kind of feeling the same thing. Isolated. You're feeling all this stuff, but you can't really say anything.
Exactly.
You can't talk. So, like, there's kind of parallel. Obviously, there's different stakes involved. For you being anxious, you're trying to survive, you're trying to live, you're trying to do your job and get home. But yeah, your wife's probably just as afraid and wanting, you know what I mean?
She can't talk to anybody. Like, I mean, she knew way more about these cases than she was supposed to. Because you're not supposed to talk about them, even with your family. And, sometimes I abide by that, but most of the time, no, that's not how I feel.
Yeah, I hear that all the time from cops. I think there's a piece of it you kind of just to stay sane, and so they're not like, "Are you cheating on me?"
Exactly.
Like, I'm taking everything, and you're like, "Whoa, talk about."
I'm just kidding. It was my job.
Yeah, like, easy. Now, let me tell you a couple things.
Exactly. But then it's almost a burden to her then that she has to know this information. She knows she can't talk to anybody. She can't tell anybody what I'm doing.
Same thing.
Yeah, that's
tough. But you're doing this. You're doing it parallel though. She's doing it over there. You're doing it over here, and
exactly.
And then everyone's, when there's like threats, people's defenses come out, or like the way that you handle it. And some people handle that pretty well, and some people, like, I'm guessing that you guys had to have some talks about your work and stuff once you could. You probably had to have quite a few to kind of explain a little bit.
So when I finished the second case, there was, because I think part of it, we never had the chance after the first case to debrief. So we go straight into the second one. So you're talking about a 3-year period now.
That's a long time.
Yeah,
3 years.
It really is. And she, we openly talked, and in some ways, she figured out how to live her life
Mm-hmm.
without me, and
Yeah,
rightfully so. Not,
makes sense.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, they're taking care of all the stuff. It's basically a single parent at that point,
Oh yeah, big
you
time.
know, and
Yep.
creates problems. I see a lot like on the back end when the responder comes home and either off the shift or off a case, and then they come home and they're like, "Hey, I'm the man," or "I'm the whatever the role was," but they've been there the whole time and running the show.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. It's
you
like
know,
I didn't know because the dumb part of me is like, okay, I'm back. I hit a pause button, so now we're right back. The minute I left, we're gonna go right back to that time. All right, ready, break.
yeah, you think so? It
Yeah,
would make
exactly.
sense. Yeah, but it doesn't work that way, does it? Yeah.
Nah, not at all. And that's what I had to find my way back in, and my wife had to find a way to put me back in.
Mm-hmm.
And there were a lot so when I got back, we had issues. Anytime I'd go, if I had to leave the house, anytime I left the house, uh, my kid would just be like, "No, daddy, don't go, daddy." He literally thought every time I walked out that door that I was going to be gone for however long
Mm-hmm.
again. So
Yeah.
we definitely it was a trying
Yeah.
time when I got
Yeah.
back for a while.
Yeah.
But again, that's
Bumpy.
yeah, but it's nothing compared to what she went through, and it's nothing. And then I think about my mom and um, all the
Mm-hmm.
worries that she had all the time, and we did not tell her things.
Yeah, I
And
know what you mean.
I don't know if that was good or bad. Like I go back and forth on that a little bit because not knowing, sometimes you play a lot worse stuff in your head than
You're
if you
always the
actually
worst
know.
case. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. It's worse than in your head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good to know a little bit, but
Exactly.
it makes sense why you don't too, though, because you don't want them to worry themselves sick.
Yeah.
Or,
And we tell her things now, and she's just like, "Oh my goodness." So
yeah.
I don't know.
I'm glad you didn't say anything.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe that was the right thing
Yeah.
there, not to go. But I say all that just to say, the spouses of all first responders, and it's not just law enforcement, firefighters too, even dispatchers and nurses and everything else. Um, the other side takes just as much burden as the first
Mm-hmm.
responder themselves. Like it
Yeah.
is a mutual uh, hardship for both, and it's important to recognize that because of the trauma that they may have. They don't
Mm-hmm.
actually have to be in that gunfight to have trauma from it by
Yeah,
any
exactly.
stretch of the imagination.
Yep.
Uh,
Just like when you walk along the beach, if you don't get in the water, you still get salty. It's in the air.
exactly.
The
Yeah.
salt is around you. You're breathing it in. It's in your hair. Same thing. You're around traumatized people. You're
It's
gonna
kind
feel some of that in one way or the other.
exactly.
you know?
And it's important
Yeah.
to recognize that and to validate that. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't, like the worst thing anybody could do, and this would be just ignorant, is the only way to put it, is if you don't respect the fact that they can be traumatized from this and say, you weren't
Yeah.
there. How can this affect you? That
Yeah.
is not even, that's
Yeah,
crap.
people, I hear that all the time. I was
Yeah.
on a set on a commercial with this guy, and he was like, I didn't know firefighters could be traumatized. I'm like, oh man, you have no idea. I mean, it's not what you think on TV, but when you see suffering and you see, like terrifying things, or your comrades die or they get
Yeah.
injured or seriously injured, yeah, it kind of affects you. You're a big caring person, so
Exactly. Yeah.
you're gonna feel some of that no matter what. And people even hearing about traumatizing stuff can have an impact,
Yeah.
especially if you know the person and you hear a story about them. You can tap into yourself, and that empathy it can be tough for people, that because you feel for other people, and then if they're injured in a way, or traumatized or hurt or maimed or sexually assaulted or something, like you feel some of that reaction. You're
Yeah.
getting a dose. It's just maybe not like IV dose, but you're still taking it in. You're
Yep.
around them. You feel it.
And don't think like whether it's law enforcement or firefighter. Like if a law enforcement, you know, you're out there and all of a sudden your spouse is watching the news and law enforcement is in a shootout at this location right now, and she can't get a hold of you, or he can't get a hold of you, or the same thing. There's a large fire here. We have multiple firefighters injured, and they can't get a hold. Like that's going to be traumatizing right there. Whether you're actually involved or not, guaranteed that's gonna leave an impact. 100%.
Yeah, because they'll wonder and they'll be all on the internet and stuff trying to figure.
And that mind is going to go crazy. Yeah, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Well, and there's a shout out today too for all the people who don't have mothers. I looked it up. It's actually about 4% of children grow up in the U.S. without a mother, and that's not that much. But if you think about over time, like how many kids that is, and then as you get older too, people lose their mom, or mom, something happens and they're not around anymore, or and so I think there's something to be said for all the teachers, the coaches, the people that see the neighbor kid that, doesn't have a mom, and then they try to be a good, like a solid person for them. And I always appreciate people like that. I've had a few, and
that's a huge role.
Yeah, it's the same for Dad, but today's Mother's Day, so we're talking about mothers. But
we'll do that again in June.
Yeah, we'll talk about dads because, like, this is same thing applied for you. There might have been some people. This is weird to say, but I think you'll know what I mean. It's probably good if your kids had a male figure in their life when you weren't there. Hopefully they weren't too close, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You don't need another dad, but like you're gone, and it's good for them to have like a teacher or coach or a pastor or somebody that they can look up to, and you hope that they serve a good role model. And for today, mothers, there's a lot of women who there's one in particular, I won't drop names because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but there's one in particular that's been in my life for basically my whole life. And it's been like another person that's been like a mom to me, and I just think it's cool. And I want to say thanks to people like that. And then I've had to get in a master's degree. I had a rough upbringing. So me going to college was a big deal. Me being a firefighter was a big deal. And, me getting into a master's degree program, I had to go and do interview and stuff. And so I just want to say thank you to the teachers there, because they saw, hey, let's give this guy a chance. And I didn't have a mom around, at this level. It's been, I don't have anything against my own mom, but just not actively in my life. Right. And it's not my fault. Like, if I think I'm an all right guy, and I don't deserve
I can handle it.
But there's people that I feel like, this is my beliefs coming up, but I feel like God put some people in my life to fill the gaps. And those are the people I'm saying thank you today, for filling in the gaps. And do you have, you're a coach, you do see some of that, you can see
100%.
Kids that don't have the, those connections.
And there's nothing breaks your heart more than when you see the kid have, missing someone who, especially like a mom. I mean, I think a mom is the most important role. It's more important than a dad. There is something there. It's a nurturing thing that a dad can't quite do.
I know Dad's got to
argue with me all you want, but and trust me, I want it to be the dad, but it's just not.
But here's the flip side of that. I saw this the other day. So Disney, not that I'm a huge fan of Disney, not opposed to Disney, but we're in Florida, we love Disney, right? But so a lot of their stories, they don't have all the parents. Where are the parents? And so that's a lot of people's story. It's, if you watch Disney now, think Frozen, for instance. Anna, Elsa, they're singing, where are the parents at? Like, these are just the princesses? Do they just run the show? Like, they just,
you bring that up, the parents died in that one.
Where's the parent? Did they die?
Yeah, the ship, it crashed right in the beginning.
I didn't even know.
Not that I watched the movie that much that I can name it that fast.
Same thing. Yeah, the parents aren't there is my point, and there's a bunch of them. If you look at
Mulan's the same way, right?
Yeah, Mulan. Where's the parents?
Exactly.
And I think it's just cool we'll just send a general thank you to all the mothers that have stepped into the gap,
All the
and
mother
grandparents
figures.
too.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
grandparents that like took over, because they needed
Oh,
to.
so I know several, and this is one again. I won't throw out a name, but I know one grandmother, and I actually keep in touch with her, and just an incredible lady. There may be a day that she comes on here, but
Mhm.
she adopted her grandkids. Um,
That's cool.
they were in a very bad situation with a lot of heroin use,
Yeah.
and so she took them out of an extremely bad situation. And by no means has it
Mhm.
been an easy road. I got to know
Yeah.
her because her daughter or her granddaughter, or
Mhm.
daughter at this point, because it was adopted, was being trafficked.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've actually gotten to even know her daughter now pretty well,
Mm.
who's doing much, much better. It's not a one that I call a
Mhm.
win just because we didn't get her out of the situation. But eventually, through time,
Yeah.
we're able to get her out, but not the
Oh,
way I would
good.
have liked.
Mhm.
So it's kind of
Yeah.
bittersweet in a sense. But
Yeah.
anyway, the role that that lady played, and the courage and everything else she's got is just unbelievable.
That's super
It's
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
the adopted, like the moms that give up their babies for adoption, sometimes it's not by design. That's not what maybe they were date raped. Maybe just they couldn't, they were at that place in life, they couldn't take care of the baby, but someone else could. And I mean, happy Mother's Day to you too. Your baby's there. Your baby's
Yeah.
out in the world, and it's just cool. And then I know there's also a lot of moms too that deal with losing babies in uh, as they're being developed. So along the way, like miscarriages, multiple. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah.
And you hear people say, "Oh, Happy Mother's Day," and then they feel the pain of miscarriages times 5, 7.
Whatever.
Some
Yeah.
people really struggle. So anyway,
Yeah. Going down Dr.
we remember all those people. Yeah, and you matter too, and that's what we're talking about. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah. Oh, this is good. Yeah.
Excellent. So, like I said, we'll do a little bit shorter, but I'm going to end with the question. So here's
Yeah.
what I ran into trying to. I had this therapist pick out just from my research online and some people they've helped, that kind of thing. And
Mhm.
I was like, oh, this one's perfect. Go in. Can't do my state.
Uh,
So I thought, and maybe I'm missing something, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can do my state. I haven't. I just went by what I
mhm.
read there. But so telehealth, like you do the Zoom part, right? And that you
Mhm.
do your session Zoom. You still have to be
Yeah.
licensed in the state where you're at or where the person, like, so if the person I
Mhm.
want to get help from is in Idaho, uh,
Mhm.
can I see them if they're only licensed in Idaho, or do they have to be licensed in Florida too in order to talk to me via Zoom?
Yeah. That's a good question. And so the question is, can you practice over state lines in a state where you're licensed or not?
Right.
Um, and I'd say to be safe, you have to be licensed in the place that I am or the therapist is, plus where my client is.
Okay.
And then but here's the thing, that's only based on licensed therapists. Like when we had the coach on air,
Yes.
like
Yep.
she can meet
Anywhere.
with anybody,
Yeah.
anywhere, anytime. And I think it gets tricky, but in the US there is a national license that is being developed
Okay.
for like social or for counselors. It's called the interstate compact license. And there's a few states that have to sign legislation. A lot of them already have, like more than 30 of the 50 states have already agreed to let counselors and or like professional counselors, that kind of thing, to practice across state lines.
Yeah.
So that's coming, but the moral of the story is you definitely have to have, as a provider, I have to be licensed where I am and plus them where they are. Now, not off the record because we're on the record, but I would just say, like, if your address is in the state where the person is practicing, then you're registering as a patient with an address in the state where the provider is, and then you, of course, you can meet with them because you know, technically you're registered
Right,
in their
yeah.
state and you have an address there. So there's workarounds to
Gotcha.
kind of make things happen. But some therapists, I think, were really, really scared of any kind of ethical issues from boards and stuff. So I think the best bet is just to be licensed there. But if I was really going to meet with somebody, though, there is a form of counseling that does not have diagnosis, and that's the big issue. You know, like, am I coaching or am I counseling? And counseling has a diagnosis and
Right.
treatment plan and insurance and all that. Coaching doesn't. So, you know, keep that in mind.
Yeah, that is actually a very valuable point. Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah,
So-
but yeah, so hopefully soon, you know,
Yeah,
we can do that. You know, that came from COVID because there's a lot of people that moved around, and all of a sudden you got to change your providers, and it's a mess. But
yeah, and that's not easy. Like once you find a therapist you really like, I mean, it's not necessarily easy.
Yeah.
It's, oh, well, I'll just go to a new one. It doesn't quite work.
Yeah, it's hard to figure that out.
Yeah.
But if anybody needs help finding a therapist, just let us know. I mean, you drop us a message, or I can send. I always use Psychology Today, Therapist Finder, as a free resource, and then of course there's insurance stuff. And you know, finding a provider is hard to do, but I think word of mouth is also good.
Yeah.
If you can, you know, get tapped into an office that has a few therapists that understand your background.
Exactly.
You know,
100%. And don't forget, as always, and this kind of law enforcement specific, but if you're at a bad spot and you just need someone to listen to you and you just need to talk, cop line. Always remember cop line.
Yep, 24/7.
That out exactly.
That's cool. Awesome, man. Well, we'll see you back next week.
Exactly. Yep. And we will have a guest on again next week. Like I said, we wanted to do a little bit special for Mother's Day today. And actually, one of the guests that I was thinking about is a female and a mother. And I was like, man, I'm not going to pull her on Mother's Day. So I'll be talking to her probably tomorrow or Tuesday. And hopefully she will be coming on. And let me tell you, if she's available this Sunday, talk about phenomenal. She's just so cool. She's almost a hero of mine, kind of. So nice. All right.
Yeah, cool, man. Hey, you all stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Everybody have a good night. Thank you so much for tuning in.